just unmuted. So, hello everybody. Thank you, and welcome to GQUAT Family Reunion Bus. Why? Because good friends become family, and family is everything. Unbiased LLC is in here. Queen Rachel, Sissy, Queen Joanne Stevens, Maria Graham, Mike's Chaotic Gardening. Oh, the early birds. By the way, you guys, my sister Joanne Stevens, some of you already know she's a glass artist, but do you see where her thumbnail is? That zebra? That's actually a piece of glass, some of her artwork that she uses as a thumbnail. My Renaissance grandma. Thank you for coming and welcome. Vanessa, you should have your package, your second package. I don't know what happened to the first one at the post office because I mailed one in the same day I mailed yours. I mailed one to my grandson all the way in California, and he got his yesterday. So I talked to him today. He was very happy with his gifts. They should have I should have sent those out Christmas time, but they didn't get there. He and his dad don't celebrate the commercialism of Christmas. So of course all of my things were handmade, but they finally got in the mail. I sent two big mailings out this week. Maria Graham loves my jacket. Thank you. Thank you. It's actually, I've had it a long time. It has a pair of silk purple pants to go with it, but I just have on my usual 20 pairs of black leggings and jeans and things that I have on below. It's like the TV newscasters. They look nice up top, and then down the bottom they might have on foo-foo house shoes and everything else. But before I start, let me say hello to everyone. And thank you for coming. Those of you on the replay, welcome. Those of you who are members of the Friends and Family Club, I thank you. I couldn't make it without my moderators. Dolores is in the back, as usual, working and helping. David's standing outside my room as security. Make sure nobody else gets in before him. Thank you. I've been watching your videos. I watch everybody's videos. Hello, Clovis Gardner. Thank you for coming and welcome. I try to watch as many as I can. I always give the thumbs up, but I don't always get back to type in. When you try to support several hundred channels, several thousand channels, you just do the best you can. And those who know you understand that we're doing it. Or sometimes I might, especially if they're shorts, I might binge watch them like 4, 5, however many at a time. And then when I get a chance to go back, I leave messages. Some people think, oh, she just left a message, 50 messages. She didn't even watch them all. Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did. So today I'm going to stop. We've been crocheting the last 2 times. So today I'm going to do what most of you do in real life, and I'm going to play catch up. Mother's Day, as you know, is Sunday. But I want to tell you guys about our family's tradition. Mother's Day, we believe, the Pankey family, the Thomas family, all of the cousins and everybody, we celebrate all of the women in the family. Why? Because it takes a village to raise a child. I was a single parent some of the time. Some of the time I was married, but you know who was always there? My village was always there. My sisters, my brothers. I have 2 children. They would not be who they are today were it not for my sisters and brothers. Auntie Joanne Stevens, Auntie Della Williams, my brothers. So we make sure that we celebrate all the women in the family. It doesn't matter whether you gave birth, you have children. How many of you have nurtured children that you didn't give birth to? I have nurtured hundreds, maybe thousands. They call me mommy, they call me auntie, they call me nana, they call me anything, almost anything. They don't call me out my name, and they usually don't call me by my first name. I'm old school. I have an issue with that. So I use the auntie part. I have cousins that were older. And you know what? We didn't call them by their first name. We call them cousin so and so. I have cousins who are adults now, have children of their own, and they call me Auntie Penny. They call me auntie out of respect. Some of my nieces from Tanzania and Namibia, they call me mom. They call me mommy. Were you saying something, Dolores? Oh, I've got the ear thing in my ear. So, how many of you have celebrated other women or been raised by other women that were not your biological mothers, like grandmothers, people that babysat you, teachers? Put a one in the chat if you've ever been nurtured by someone other than your mother or in addition to someone other than your mother. I always have been. I always had grandmothers. I have aunts. Two of my dad's sisters are still living. I try to stay in touch and call them periodically. Auntie Joanne Stevens put a one in. She's been a mother to my children at times. Her and Uncle Roscoe. I had something funny to show you, but I didn't bring my iPad in here. I'm going to be on for about an hour this evening because the chat goes on with Nikki, the everyday life of an OCD-ish chick, Hands in the Dirt, and Bougie Prepper. Casings 55, thank you and welcome, welcome, welcome. Clovis Gardner says she has been nurtured or nurtured others. Maria Graham, we really believe that it took a village. And you know what? It wasn't even relatives. Where I grew up, all the neighbors, their mothers, if they saw you doing something, they would be like, Penny, does your mother know you're over here? Are you supposed to be over? Where are you supposed to be? You know, your mother doesn't allow you to do that. And they would get on me, fuss at me. And then when I get home, my parents will be waiting, like, you did what, and what? Oh, man. Oh, man. But that's why I say it takes a village to raise a child. And you guess what? It takes a village to retire the elders with dignity and respect. Me, I cannot, will not, don't want to. I'm not willing or able to do a lot of things. Hola, mi hermana. Yankee Sister Olmsted. How you doing, sis? How are you doing? Oh, she's planting herself to death, but she knows I'm getting ready to set up a meeting spot, number one, so that I can return her jars of all her canning. She gave me lots of tomato sauce and whatnot. So I've cleaned out most of the jars. I have some things for her that I don't talk about. I love talking about the things that she does for me. But speaking of that, I have a little mail haul that I would like to talk about. And it's from Nikki, the everyday life of an OCD-ish chick. And what did she send her dear old auntie? She sent me some sweet William flowers and some annuals. I believe they're annuals because I know most perennials, yes. And I can go out there. My garden has to be cleaned out. I had a knee replacement 8 weeks ago. And, you know, I lean on my handicap sticker and I don't do anything I don't have to do. I plan on making this next 25 years as transition free as possible. So I get someone else. Uh-oh. This one is open. The green beans. I don't know if I planted it or what, but I've got some beans in here. It's cool because this is a split seed, so it would not have germinated anyway. Speaking of which, some of you asked me on Thursday, on Thursday about my garden and gardening. I don't have a whole lot, but you did ask about a Georgia candy roaster squash. So I dropped 3 seeds. These are the ones that like take over your whole yard. Sifting some soil, Mona had one that she was talking about. You can go to her channel. This thing is so prolific. So I have 3 of those. I just sent my sister Joanne a May Day package. It has her birthday gift in it, her anniversary gift, Mother's Day gift. Everything's in a box, one big box. So, Sissy, yours got to the post office today. I had an early morning appointment. I had to be at David Corey. Thank you. I know that you said you're in the bushes. I had a 9 o'clock appointment at my physical slash OT therapy, and he takes you beyond the max of what you think you can do. And some of it's like literally painful where they're stretching your limb, your knee back into where it should be, even if it never was, and they're stretching. It can be quite painful. Then, of course, I get them to ice my knee so it doesn't hurt. Then I went to the post office. There's a post office near there where there are no steps and I can take my cart. So I had a big box, your sissy, and about 10 smaller packages that I mailed. Then I went to the grocery store intending just to pick up a couple of cases of water to have on hand because I usually buy a lot of cases of bottled water and I'm down to my last case. I got the cart and then I said, you know what? That little basket, 3 cases of water are not going to fit in there. So I ended up in the meat department. Mother, if you're watching, I finally found some liver. I got a couple packs of beef liver, 2 packs of chicken livers. I've been looking for liver for about 4 or 5 months. My mother loves them. Nobody else in the family eats them except her and me. So, Mother, we will have liver. And I stopped working on all my other projects. Of course, Dolores's big quilt is the top is finished. I'm working on other projects. This week, I will be fast forwarding, making gifts for the family. My sister's is in the mail. And so luckily, I do a little bit. The 15-minute challenge, I use that for doing a little bit ahead of time. We have a new, she's not the property manager, a new, I guess, program manager here and the senior building that I live in. David Corey says, thank you. There's a new manager. So when I met her, I had some Yankee sisters said her and her mom were the only ones that loved liver and onions. I make it and I make enough to give a cut. There are 2 or 3 neighbors that like liver and onions. One used to be my dog walker, another lady that walks Mr. Hershey sometimes when I can, and actually 2 neighbors. And so I cook enough for them, and then I have some. I bring it every day. Kelly, thank you and welcome. So, speaking of Mother's Day, some of the gifts I have ready already. This one in animal print, this neck bone ergonomic pillow. By the way, my grandson and his father got theirs yesterday. So this one is for my daughter. My daughter always says, Mom, I don't want anything. Don't give me anything. And then I give her something that I made that's really useful that money can't buy. Oh, Mom, I just love it. So yesterday was my great grandson's birthday, Rylan. I didn't go down because it was a work day, school day. Most of the schools were closed in the town that they live in because Interstate 95 in Connecticut is shut down in both directions at the exact exit where you get off to go to my mom's house. I usually walk that way. You can walk to the beach from her house or the train station to go to work. But anyway, the train station was closed. But Rylan loves yellow and he loves hedgehog. So I found some little fabric. I don't know if he'll use it. I put some little bright orange handles on it. But guess what? This has been ready for about 2 or 3 months. I do a little bit, my 15-minute challenge. I'm making gifts for the year ahead to give away. And, you know, this is a gift of love. And I make sure that I put my name on each thing. I have a little label, like even on this little one. This is my goat's bell, my lead goat, Lilac, and I cleaned it up. And that's what I use when I welcome you aboard the GQUAT Garden Quilt and Art Show, which is what GQUAT stands for, Garden Quilt and Arts. I am a mixed media artist in my retirement, but my favorite genre is fiber arts and especially quilting. I do these to show you just some of the things that you can do that money can't buy. You cannot buy these in stores. This one is for my therapist. And by the way, when you make these, you guys, it takes more fiber fill than you think it does. I usually buy the the 10-pound box, and which is pretty big. When you open it, there's a box open in Auntie Joanne's house in the closet that I use in the room that I use for a studio when I'm out there. And the box was almost as tall as her. But I make pillows when I'm out there and give them to family members or people who are on the West Coast. It costs more to mail them than it does to buy the fabric and make them. It usually takes about a third of a yard. So going back to my little mail haul, I'm always talking about needing something sharp. So I bought this little mini knife for myself so that I can keep it in my pocket. It has a clip where it's like 2.5 inches, has a tiny little blade. I imagine that it's sharp so that I can open these silly boxes that I get from Amazon. They put things in 1,000 boxes, but it's only 2.5 inches. But I love this little clip. Nobody's paying me to do it. This little clip will clip on your clothes so that you don't have to have your purse on you or anything else. David Corey will tell you, anybody who has a homestead, anybody that works in the country, you always have a knife. Have you tried to cut some of the okra or some of the vegetables off of the stalks with your bare hands? It's almost like impossible to open a bale of hay, to open a feed sack. So it's just nice to have something that you can cut with. Okay, so what am I working on tonight? I have a few of these key fobs ready. Actually, quite a few. Oops. Quite a few. All these just need the labels put on them. The labels put on them. They have the hook on them. And while this looks big, I just like the piñata stuff. You know, tomorrow is May Day, a Mexican holiday. They said you can't roll up on Auntie with that. You know what? You don't want to roll up on Auntie when even with Auntie's bare hands. She ain't the one. As they used to say, if you see me fighting a bear, don't help me. Help the bear. Help the bear. So this one could be like for a man or a woman. But guess what? If I'm making it for a woman and it's big like this and I wanted to give it to, or I'll say someone with smaller hands, I'm learning not to say male, female, gender correct, and using the pronouns. But it's hard to train old people to change something else. So because this one is big, I make them like a standard size. If I know I'm giving it to someone that's petite, I will, when I sew the loop in, I'll shorten it like this. So it's only this part open. Or even if it's already made, you can always shorten it for somebody petite or with small hands. Hello, Auntie's packing. Auntie got more than you know. Auntie has more than you know. So there's that. But you know what? All you got to do, I also have a senior alert thing, the little thing, help me, I've fallen and I can't get up. All I have to do is speak into it. And I could say, look, I'm having a panic attack. Someone's like trying to do this, that, or the other. Or sometimes I test it, like this is May now. I just test it and say, this is, hello, I'm just doing my monthly test. Well, they'll say, are you in a safe place? Can you tell me your home address? And I'll say yes or no. And they'll say, well, call back when you get home and you're okay. But you can just call and get help. It's not a problem. I live in a secure building where you buzz people in, you buzz them out. And it's just, you always protect yourself and don't leave yourself open. But it is what it is. So, how many of you are making anything for Mother's Day, Father's Day, Sister Brother's Day, birthdays, or what have you? I'm cleaning up this string because I'm going to make, it's like I couldn't think of what I wanted to give my mom. She doesn't need anything. She doesn't want anything. Hi, Angela. Always awesome. Angela. Oh, Maria, she sent me this little shady photo where she went in a thrift shop and found the cutest machine for, what was it? Nikki, the everyday life of an OCD-ish chick. Thank you for my flower seeds. I just showed them to everybody. And I forgot what I was going to tell you guys. So I will go on and show you what I'm going to make. So I made my mother a neck bone pillow. I think I gave it to her for Christmas. And she just loves that thing. She loves it so much. And it was with, sorry if I moved that too fast, it was in this beautiful butterfly, dragonfly fabric. Oh, yeah, that's what I wanted to show you guys. One of the things I was telling you about fabric, one of the things I was telling you about fabric, one of the ways you can tell expensive fabric in fabric that's made and sold in the United States. See all these little numbers on the side? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one has been through the printer. Is pretty expensive fabric. This was for one of the fabrics in Dolores's quilt, the darker fabric with the flowers on it. And so I took this off. Some people take these strips and collect them and make quilts out of just this part. So then the one that I'm going to show you now, I'm going to make some pillowcases for my mother. And she has so many sheets, so many pillows. She must have 10 pillows on her king size bed. But she seems to love this little butterfly, dragonfly pillow. I'm trying to hold this still. This one has been through the printer to make the fabric 17 times. So this was a pricey fabric. So this is the fabric I'm going to use. I decided to make her 4 king size pillowcases. And to make a pillowcase, I'm not going to make the exact pillowcase that you see on my thumbnail for today. I have already given her those king size pillowcases. So she has those. And I'm making some with a neutral color because she has different quilts on her bed, different pillowcases, different other things. So I'm making 4 king size pillowcases, and this is a neutral color. You can buy it in Kona, But I like the old, remember that old unbleached muslin like your grandmother had in those old quilts? It was always some kind of white fabric, but I didn't want to use that. This is called tea dyed muslin. And so I've cut out several pieces of this. For my king size quilts, I usually cut them 36 inches the bottom, but the standard size to make a pillowcase is to cut the top that folds. You cut that 9.5 inches. I don't cut my 9.5 inches. I'm always doing something different. I always tweak the pattern. So I make the top part 10.5, and I'm not putting that little strip in the middle because who's going to sit up there and iron it flat? So, that being said, let me show you how to make a quickie quilt. I mean, not a quickie quilt, a quickie pillowcase. So this will be the bottom. And I didn't cut this one 36 because I knew the top was bigger. I made this one 32. Muslin. I'm glad you asked that question. Always awesome, Angela. The muslin depends on the type that you say. Not me. I don't iron either, Rachel. The only thing I iron is my quilting and my artwork, my art stuff. I iron. The rest of it, to answer, the muslin is very soft. It's 100% cotton, but do not buy the cheapest muslin. Some muslin is like cheesecloth. It's very porous. It's like curtain fabric that you can see through. So this is a pretty good quality of muslin. And when it's washed, it will be soft and it won't need to be ironed. And I'm pairing it with this. So this fabric is approximately 44 inches. 44 inches. So I usually try to, I'm sorry, 42 inches. 42 inches. Most things that I make, I try to center it, whether I'm putting the binding on a quilt, whatever I'm doing, I just like to center it. You can also, after, oops, I dropped the center. You can also put a pin or something in the quarters again, like if you're putting bindings on a quilt or something. And what that does, you distribute the sides so you don't get some parts that are wavy and some parts that are short. Yankee sister loves ironing. Auntie Joanne irons too. It's like me, not so much. Not so much. So I have marked the center of this pillowcase piece, the top that's going to go at the head. And I have this piece that's 34 inches. I want to show you what a quickie project this is. So this is already folded. I didn't even bother to iron it because I knew that it was folded in the center. So when you sew anything in clothing, oops, let me put back so that you guys can see my lap. Yep, you can see my legs. So this is the center of the unbleached muslin fabric, and I'm going to place the piece that I'm sewing on. I see the pin right here. So, and I can actually see the middle where I actually kind of ironed the crease out. I didn't put a hard crease in it. So, you're kind of in the ballpark. I'm putting it down so that I can actually see where the fold was. Okay, so I'm going to match the centers up, and I'm going to open it up and put a pin here. I like to, instead of just putting the pin down and coming up, I like to put my pins, especially like in the middle or an important place, I like to stick it back and forth 3 or 4 times. You know why? Because sometimes the pin comes out. And that way you're more or less likely to have more coverage. Darth X, thank you for coming and welcome. Thank you, anyone who's in the bushes that I can't see. I appreciate you for watching. Some people are busy, they just don't have their hands free to chat and to speak to everybody. So, what I'm doing is just pinning these two pieces together. Do I have to pin them? No. I'm kind of OCD-ish, and I just like my things to line up, and I don't want them to slip. And since I'm only going to put a 1/4 inch seam here, it's easy to it's easy to slip. Now, normally you cut these edges off. I didn't cut the edges off intentionally because sometimes some of that pricey fabric is printed on the edge to make that little print where they tell you all the different colors. And if I cut it off, it would have made this like 1/3 of an inch short. I'm going to be making thick seams, so this will be covered up in the seam. So this half is pinned. And that's the other thing with pinning. You get to know, you know about exactly where. So this side, you see, is not quite, the muslin is a little bit longer, even though I pin them exactly. So what I can do is trim that off later, but I will make it the as wide as I can. Why? Because sometimes people hand make pillowcases, and the pillowcase is so tight you can hardly get the pillow in it. And then the other thing is this: even if this little top part is short, it's finished, you still have a nice little pillowcase regardless. Hey, Karen's little garden. Thank you for coming. Teresa Bailey says hi from Maine. I saw you on Facebook with your dad. And hello to you and the family in Maine, Teresa Bailey. Teresa Bailey. So this morning, you guys, it was 46 degrees in Connecticut where I live. But then it warmed up. It was just perfect. It was just perfect today. So I'm changing my foot, and the foot that I told you that I switched to on Auntie Joanne's Featherweight was one of these clamshell feet instead of the one that comes came on with the antique ones. And these are usually higher speed. So let's turn Taylor on. By the way, Auntie Joanne's granddaughter, Taylor, had a game. She's a softball player, a starter on the UCLA women's women's baseball team, and she was put. They were playing Arizona State University, and see, double checking and talking. This edge is not all the way up, so you have to double check even when you pin to make sure things are where you want to be. In carpentry, they say measure twice and cut once. Unbiased LLC, thank you. By the way, she got some blocks. When she told me the first time, I figured they were probably 6.5. Why? Because quilters have certain standard sizes that they like to make things, and if you put 4 6.5 inch blocks together, I forgot to tell her, you end up with a 12-inch finished block when you put those together. Or if you use three jelly roll strips and sew them together with a 1/4 inch seam, you will end up with a 6.5 inch block. So I am using a little less than a 3-inch stitch. Why? Because I like to, and I'm just sewing the top to the bottom. of this pillowcase. And what will happen is that my mother's little neck bone pillow that she loves on her bed will have 4 sisters and brothers to keep her company, and hopefully will match with whatever quilt or comforter she has on her bed. She usually has, my mother's always cold, so she always has a lot of blankets and comforters on her bed, especially in the wintertime. In the summer, she may only have one of my quilts. Okay, so now we're getting to, I'm going to move this over just a little bit. We're moving to the center. Yeah, I think you guys can see that a little bit better. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to make a custom pillowcase that money can't buy. And this one will match her neck bone pillow. I actually bought 13 yards of this dragonfly fabric. Someone told me they wanted me to make them a quilt. They wanted to commission it, and they love dragonflies. I bought 13 yards of this fabric, and they never heard from them again. I see them on Facebook. They're doing other things. So I got stuck with this fabric. I just happen to love butterflies myself and dragonflies. So I've been using it a little bit at a time. And this is about, let me back up. I'm talking and I missed, even with the pins in it, I missed a stitch. Something happened. So let me go back. You always put your thread in the back. And I'm going back to see the last place that it's stitched. So long story short, I don't know why this, because I'm at the end. It was the end that skipped, not the beginning. I don't know why. There's nothing wrong with the machine. I was just probably talking and sewed off the lines. So let me go back and double check. That's why I like to pin it, you guys, because it does slip. And you look up and see right here is when I went off the rails. When I was looking up speaking, but no problemo. No problemo. I'm just going to stitch back over there. That's the beauty of sewing machines. And it's that you can, if you cut fabric, if you cut it wrong, you sew it wrong, you can always go back. Always go back. And yes, I'm using these big old scissors because I don't have to sew close. I'm just taking the edge out right here. You see where it got thin? So, no problemo. But that's what takes, it just takes a little bit of time. So let me fix that. Even the edges back up so that I'm sewing both edges at the same time. And in the beginning, when I learned how to make this quilt maybe 15, 20 years ago, they called it a 20-minute pillowcase. Now they call it the sausage method, the this, the that, the everything. You know, most things have not just been invented unless it's like social media, electronic stuff. Most things have been around for centuries. People started using them, changed the name, pretend they made it up. No, they didn't. It's been around forever and ever and ever. Okay. So now what I'm going to do quickly, but certainly I remember Christmas Eve, I was up making pillowcases for the kids. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, Nana was busy making gifts. The kids love these pillowcases. I pretend that they sleep so much better when they have one of the soft pillowcases that Nana made. My sister Joanne Stevens has pillowcases that are like 15, 20 years old. The more you wash them, if you make them like with 100% cotton, the softer they get. So, you guys, give me one little minute. I'm going to go and press the top of this. Dolores, can you put on my commercial, my intermission music, please? I will be right back. Just give me like 2 shakes, you guys. So, what I like to do, thank you, Dolores, for that beautiful little intermission music and the little purple graphic. I think that's so cute. So, you guys, this is what you end up with a top and a bottom. So, I like putting my machine on top of something that's thick. I have a little one of those rug cushions over it because when I'm sewing hard, it like cushions it and keeps it from shaking all over the place. So what I just did was iron the seam. This seam, I iron it up so that when I stitch on the other side, you can't see it. So I start at the bottom and I roll it up. What I'm going to do is roll it so that the bottom part will end up here when I sew it like into the sausage part. Let me see if I can get it all up evenly. So this was the center because I can see the center line. Not too close because I don't want to sew the seam. Then I roll the bottom up. And roll it up again. Okay. So what I'm doing is making sure that it's not in the creases. So Now I'm enclosing the bottom half and sewing the pieces together, the top and the bottom. So I'm making these two edges straight. I'm pushing this down to make sure I'm not sewing over any of the seams. And I'm going to put a few pins in along the way. Again, some people don't pin. I'm a pinner. Why? Because Murphy's Law, everything, I'm just reading some of the notes, you guys. Sorry I can't see the chat right now. I'm just sewing this pillowcase together. And by making this part, this black part, 10.5 inches, it gives you a little bit more room than the standard pattern instructions that you see that they say, cut this part 9.5. You have to turn this inside out. So I cut a lot of fabric into 10.5-inch strips because I make a lot of 10.5-inch blocks. The usual stacks that you buy are usually 10-inch blocks, but Auntie Ellen has her own way of doing things. So what I'm doing when I'm pinning in here, I'm making sure I'm not too close to the edge. So when I make my seams, I can make them 1/3 of an inch. I try to make them a little bit bigger to cover the 1/3 of an inch that I already have in there. So up here where I kind of sloppily folded it up, I'm just tucking it under so that these two seams have room to sew together without catching the part that's down the bottom. So this pillowcase will have 2 fabrics instead of the one on the thumbnail with 3 fabrics, because honestly, that little tiny strip is a pain in the boom boom, because when you wash it and iron it, it doesn't always lay flat. And like I said, who wants to see sitting up there ironing those? So I'm going to put one pin over here, turn this machine around, and I'm going to sew back across the top. I appreciate all of you. Oh, Thursday, I'm going to give everybody in here the heads up. I'm able to, because I am monetized now, I am able to gift 10 memberships. So those of you who are not members, I will be giving out 10 free memberships. And I will tell you on Thursday what you need to do to be eligible for them. So I never knew how to do that. So I never got any of the free memberships on anybody else's channel. So now I'm sewing this top back on, and the top to the bottom with a little wider seam. And I'm trying to hold all of the edges together without overlapping. I love these pillowcases, you guys. And guess what? All the years I've been making them, ouch, I never made a set for myself. You heard me say ouch. I actually stuck myself with a pin. Some of you who are new may not know it, But if you ever stick yourself and you're sewing, you're quilting, the only thing that will remove the blood stain is saliva, your own saliva or peroxide. So this is almost done. So if you figure 20 minutes and 20 minutes, plus you have to pick the fabric out. You have to cut it. At some point, iron it and sew it. But these are the nicest pillowcases ever. And when you make a quilt, the only way you can ever get matching pillowcases for them is if you buy extra yardage. Extra yardage. But just think about it. If this is a 36-inch bottom and a 9-inch top, it takes more than 1¼ yards to make a set of pillowcases. So if you were going to charge for them, if I were going to charge for a set of pillowcases, they would be $65 a set. It's like, who wants to pay that much? Nobody. That's why you make them yourself. Okay, now here's the interesting part, and here's where the sausage comes in. So you reach in, and we're going to turn this inside out. Okay, so I usually start, reach in as far as I can. And then by this being an extra long pillowcase, there's a lot to pull. So you pull all this out. That's another reason I like 10.5 inches, because it makes it easier to turn inside out than the patterns that you see online, Google, Pinterest, whatever. Ta-da! Look. So this is the top of the pillowcase. Now, just because I want it to look nice, give me like 1 minute to use the big hot iron. I'm going to just iron this flat, because when I do the sides, I'll be right back, Dolores and everybody. Commercial time. I'm back. So what I did was, and thank you, Yankee Sister, and everybody who appreciates what all Dolores is doing. So normally you sew, I always tell you the right sides together. This is just the opposite. I have this little piece of selvage. I'm not going to trim it all the way off. I'm just going to trim the little rough edges off with these big old sharp shears. throw this away. And I'm going to sew this back together again. So I'm going to put a pin here to make sure that the seams are about in the same place on the front and the back. And those of you who've been with me before, I take a pin and put it exactly in the seam on the front. I look to see if it comes in the seam in the back, and then I know the two edges meet. Now, one of the reasons for ironing it, that step I just did just now, is to make sure that the tops are flat. So you see, I've already ironed this flat. So it should go together really nicely. Okay. So I'm just putting a couple pins to catch it. And I'm going to be making a French seam. What you can do if you have a serger, you can serge them. You can serge them. I like making these French seams. Why? Because I gave away my serger. I don't use it. I didn't use it that much anyway, all the years I had them. And I had to downsize from all those sewing machines. I actually have a little craft room next to where I'm sitting here in my apartment. It's like about 8-10 feet by 12 feet, but it's all full of my supplies. So I set up a little table outside of there. Now, watch you guys. I'm going to just sew down this side, and I'm going to make a pretty big seam. Why? Because that's what makes it last forever. So I'm just sewing this down, and my mother will have a beautiful set of pillowcases with the butterflies and dragonflies that match her neck bone pillow that she sleeps in with every single night. And I actually made her another neck bone pillow to go under her arm. She had a shoulder replacement, and when I put it in her favorite reclining chair under her right elbow, it's just the right height where it's comfortable for her back. You can use those ergonomic neck bone pillows for your back, your knees, whatever. If you want to see how to make them, I have videos on them. I know Rachel Unbiased LLC has videos on how to make the neck bone pillow. They're also called dog bone pillows, you guys. But different people call it tomato, whatever. So I didn't put any pins on the bottom, but I'm going to stick one or two just to make sure I'm sewing it evenly. And actually, let me sew closer to the bottom. A little bit closer. All this fabric, I don't want to miss any of it. Okay, you guys. So now the edges of the pillowcase are sewn. So now I like to go back and cut any little threads that are here just so they're not sticking up when I turn it inside out. So I just go along. I like doing it with the little, they call them zigzag shears now. We called them something else back in the day. But what I'm doing is cutting off all these little strings. I don't want to leave you, so I usually go over to my cutting board over there and do this with a rotary cutter. But it doesn't matter what you use. Use what you have on hand and use what is comfortable for you. So I'm just cutting off these strings on the end because we're about to turn this inside out. And in 3 minutes, it will be finished. And I will be going over to Nikki and pinking shears. Yep, that's what we used to call them, Yankee sister. Now the kids call them zigzag shears. And I'm just going to put a little grip on here. I don't have to. Now I'm going to turn it inside out and do the same thing. That's how you make a French seam. Oh, actually, I will. I square my square corners. I cut the corners off so that they lay flat. I'm going to poke my finger in and turn it inside out. And sew around the edges, and voila, one of my mom's Mother's Day pillowcases will be done. And then I will only have 3 more to do. And she is going to love them. She can't buy there isn't any more of this fabric, I don't think. So this is it. I have a tiny little bit that I'm keeping to do I don't know what with. Normally I could get up and sew this. I'm hand pressing this just to hold it down. Joanne Stevens says, you always make the most of your time. Mom's going to love the pillowcases. So I'm just putting a couple seams in here. A couple of pins just to hold them straight. And in 3 minutes, the pillowcase will be finished. I will spray it with a little essential oil. I like to patchouli in it. And it just gives it a nice little smell. Most people like it. Some people don't. But you can always wash it and wash it out. But I press them like you see the pillowcases in all the fancy stores in the linen department. Except guess what? You made your own. And nobody has any like yours. And they're just adorable. Just adorable. So somebody set the timer and I will tell you like 5 minutes. And these, by the way, are king size pillowcases. If you're cutting standard pillowcases, you only cut the bottoms 27 inches and the tops 9.5 according to. Now I'm going to make this seam a little bit wider. I'm sewing with neutral off-white thread on Taylor. That's the name of this machine. It's also the name of Auntie Joanne's granddaughter, Taylor, the softball player. But Hudson, Growing with Hudson, chose this name, and I liked it because tailoring, Taillor, is something you do with a sewing machine. So this one's name is Taylor. And yes, I name all of my machines. All of my machines. I usually name them after where I got them or a person or something like that. But this time, I let you guys, the subscribers, name Taylor. Okay, I'm just making sure all the seams are pulled out. And see, I'm not matching fancy points like on my show quilts, so I can sew a little faster. Okay, we get down to the corner. When you're turning corners, you leave the needle down, you guys. I always tell you to leave the needle up. That's when you're finishing and starting something. When you're pivoting and continuing to sew on a corner, you leave the needle down to sew a corner. Like when you make the mitered corners on your quilts and things like that, you will need leave the needle down. So you guys, are you ready for the reveal? You ready for the reveal? Okay, needle up. Who's excited to see the finished pillowcase? Always make sure that you didn't leave any pins in it, whether you're quilting or sewing, because the last thing you want to do is give someone a gift with a pin sewn into it. My bell is ready to ring. Okay, so now it's done. All I do is put my hand in, try to turn the corner inside out. Turn her inside out. Push the corners out. And then shake it. I would go back to the ironing board and just flatten it down and iron it flat. I have a standard way of folding pillowcases, towels, everything. My mom did growing up, and that's how I learned how to do laundry. And look at this beautiful pillowcase. I will iron it and make a thumbnail of it. And as you see, it's nice and long because it is a king size pillowcase. So I would like to thank each of you for coming. Tomorrow is May Day for those of you who celebrate May Day. Ego amote, mother. Let me just show off your butterfly pillowcase. It's neutral on the bottom to go with all of those sheets and pillowcases and things on your bed. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you. Let's go over to Hands in the Dirt and Nikki and Bouger Prepper and say hello. Tell Auntie Ellen is coming. I'm going to drink some water and I'm coming over as well. Do what you love and love what you do, you guys. And thank you. See you soon. I will see you Thursday, 4 p.m. live. Oh, wait. I have an outro. I'll see you 4 o'clock, and I will be giving away gift memberships. So come back. Okay, Dolores, hit it.